All right, we're gonna get started. We're gonna jump right back into the Twinstar because there's a few things that I really want to point out. I think I'm loud enough. All right, do the microphone. I just did that for the sake of anyone out there straggling. So, you guys said you've done G2S on Valley, right? It boots up real fast, right? Yeah. There's a reason why the agents insist you start on the Valley first and get it out of the way before you move on to the other AGMs. They take 20, 25 minutes depending on the suite. Suite 5 has 20 games now. The more games, again, these were intended for the casino market with one, maybe 2 games. They never intended to have 20 games, multi-game selector. All of that data, all that stuff is a load on the processor, memory. It takes a long time to load. The Twinstar, among other changes, the Twinstar, even though it's running the Valley operating system, I did the first go live myself. It took 4.5 minutes to boot up. Ready to go into G2S settings. 4.5, less than 5 minutes. My agent, Ron Jones, was ecstatic. He's like, can you do that to the balance? I'm like, no, I wish I could. But this will be a godsend right here because it's a way faster processor, faster memory. The little MSATA hard drive that's mounted underneath this plate is directly into a PCI 2, and it's really fast connection. Altogether, it just blows all the other computers away. Another thing I want to point out is, again, the only thing that's going to go in this yellow socket is a beige colored BIOS chip. It's not going to be the black dongle that had BIOS and JUR combo in it in the S32. It's just going to be a beige or tan colored BIOS only to boot this motherboard up. The jurisdiction now is going to be software based on the hard drive. It's going to load like everything else if you have to load from scratch via the USB 3.0. No more compact flash cards.
That will help SGI do quick downloads on their end. They won't need to conform to the jurisdiction. The jurisdiction will be a part of their load. So they know that they have the right jurisdiction because they only have one per game.
No more JUR chip. No more, and again, these are almost idiot-proof BIOS chip sockets. And everything else, and I say almost because I've had people that still were confused.
They break off the yellow housing.
They break off the yellow housing and then you can't screw it up.
So this should be able to be RAM cleared remotely then?
Allegedly. I haven't seen that utilized yet on any brand.
It's
There's
very
soft RAM clear where you don't clear everything, right? But yes, that's, was one of the main focusing factors of setting up G2S was the possibility of that. So this is an amazing computer. It runs really fast. Again, you turn it on, and I timed it that very first go live. Turn it on, it booted up. 4.5 minutes, the lights all turn blue, solid, because they'll blink while it's booting up, while it's loading. And if you open up the door, it'll say pending games to be recovered. You're going, oh God, not pending games to be recovered. Well,
7 seconds.
yeah, it boots up so fast. And
This game is live. Remember, these games are all SGI live right now.
Side games help us put these 4 on actual. That's the TC right here. Now the MCD is just for looks. It was like, we're not going SAS. We don't have a redemption unit here. We don't need this thing.
And they are pushing MCD information to your NRT and N3T. They want that stuff G2S capable by X date. So they are forcing that MCD.
The IGB is trying to push that on all the manufacturers so that they can get everything off of SAS and just wean out all those MCDs. They're a huge reason.
It's a weak limit.
So again, if you have to, in a event you have to reload everything. There's a USB for install. There's a USB.
Not that,
I got it.
a lot better RAM on
I got it. USB RAM clear, and it runs hell of a lot faster than the compact flash cards. There's when you're installing the game suite again, let's say you did have to replace the hard drive, which again is a little tiny little solid state board. You had to reload everything from scratch. You would load an install USB in one port, then you would load the operating system in the other USB port. That only takes a minute. And then what's nice is it will refresh. You can unplug the operating system USB, plug in the jurisdiction USB, which will just have the jurisdiction file on it. You'll load that. It'll see it in a matter of seconds. You hit download. That's done. All process is successful. You pull that out. Then you load the game suite USB. Put that in there.
All while the power's on.
All, you don't have to power down between like you do on the Bally when you're shutting down and pulling out compact flash cards. You just boom, boom, boom. You're popping them in and out. Reload everything. As soon as you're done. Now again, the only thing I want to remind people again, even these batteries, if you get a brand new Twinstar computer, make sure the battery tabs are out. You still get the same NVRAM failure. So, again, we had like 60 or so people in here. When I mentioned it took 4.5 minutes, I had to wait for like 2-minute standing ovation almost because they were like ecstatic. And I'm excited too because I was, at first I was kind of sweating the first G2S setup because
For 3 days.
I'm like, oh great, I'm the one that's gonna go do this, and we're using our agent, and I'm like, that better work on that COM0. Well, it didn't work on COM0.
We got bad intel from the manufacturer.
That's ready to go. So we're gonna transition into the G2S portion now. And so, again, the only cabinet of our brands that I know of that only works on ETH1. We've been drilling it into people's heads. ETH0, ETH0,
Which is
ETH0.
Ethernet.
Ethernet port 0 on all of our other brands. This one, let me choose the right page. What am I here?
By the way, you guys can give Phil a standing ovation because he's been pretty much the instrument in driving all of the documents on these.
TJ and I created the first Valley one, which was kind of our baseline, and it was a learning curve. The manufacturers provided no documentation on how to do G2S. We relied heavily on Bill Zimmerman, and again, his insight on creating the very first, some of you might remember these, 16 versions of the Valley G2S guide. Because they kept revising it. Then I dialed it in, I got it dialed in, I got it dialed in, and now I'm getting very few revisions in between. The Twinstar guide, which I've only had pushed twice because I added this picture to highlight the test button. It was the only thing I added in the second version of this guide was here's the test button so you can go in and program. The first guide was exactly the same. There's a lot of key features that are identical to Valley and some things that are extremely different. Again, this being named as one of them, Ethernet 1.
Everything else is on the left.
Yes.
This is on the right.
On the right. It did not see it. Side games couldn't see it. I wasn't getting certs. Nothing. So, live and learn.
So he said, I wonder if this will work. Like any good technician, plug it into a different quick.
I have a sneaky suspicion. Plug it in. So, again, much like Valley, you do the touch screen, then go ahead and do your sound, and try and follow these in order. They're there for a reason. If you skip something and go back and do it later, you might screw something else up because it hinged on those previous steps.
You will have locked yourself out of the following steps maybe 2 pages later, and now you saved it, now you ran through it again and start all over. So the pages are definitely, every one of our cabinets is step by step in a specific order because we figured out that if you didn't do it in order, it didn't work because we got very little intel from the manufacturers for G2S. So a lot of the stuff is done in-house or through Bill Zimmerman at Scientific Games, and then we kind of squeeze it all together and then put it on paper and forward it to you all.
And then the WMS stuff came out almost a month after Valley, and then again, we had to fabricate that guy from scratch.
If you push that up right now, is it gonna look like a Valley?
It is, and WMS for that matter,
Okay.
because
You
of the
push
same
that up,
thing.
the test menu looks exactly like the Alpha operating system.
Just be right north.
That's right.
Yep, it sets up exactly the same. You'll see some of the pet steps here in the guide. So I stopped here to point out something. I said, do not go into the device setup page. Now, you can go into the device setup page.
Don't go on the
Don't save, don't go and choose your printer. If your printer did not auto-populate, if your bill acceptor did not auto-populate, if it didn't automatically register, your printer, if your printer is an Epic 950 Transact, the blue printer, check those dip switches. They both have to be in 2 and 7. It won't see it otherwise.
Just like a Valley.
Just like the Valley cabinets. Again, software right now is the Valley OS, the Alpha OS, so that's why that works that way.
So WMS and Valley printers use similar firmware, and they are, you could move them, but they have different dip switch settings on the physical printer itself.
Now, the firmware is slightly different.
It's a different part number,
Yeah.
but it is one.
Yeah.
I've seen it. But flash it with the right firmware.
And then the JCMs have a similar firmware for the bill acceptors, but they have different dip switch settings too underneath the glass that you need to change as well. So I've had people swap those, and they're like, why isn't it working? It's like, well, you change dip switches. So, again, you can go in there, just don't save anything, because I don't want you guys, if you do save anything in there, it's not gonna work going forward.
It's a RAM player.
And we learned this from trial and error early on. So, I raised the printer limits from 3,000 to 10,000, which is what the standard was for WMS. I raised them to 10,000 on the Valley as well, so that, God forbid, your customer wins $10,000. 10,001, it's going to be a hand pay. And until they fix what we talked about earlier today, hand pay issues where your hand pay just disappears. It does not kick out a voucher, it does not kick out a hand pay receipt. It just clears. Nobody wrote down the amount. Was it 2,320 or was it 3,230? You know, it's like, I don't remember. Well, you should have taken a picture, or you should have wrote it down on a meal log before you turned that key. And this will only work when the game is actually kicking out a hand pay message legitimately above the printer limit. Now, I've had people accidentally set the printer limit to what's supposed to be the jackpot limit. This happens on SAS and G2S all the time. People are in a hurry, and they're so used to 501, over here, 501. They come back, and $600 cash out the following day, they've got a hand pay already. Yeah.
On
Jack.
G2S, take a picture of the hand pay screen.
Until they fix.
Before you do anything, in my opinion, anytime you walk into a machine and it's got a blue box or a red box, take a picture.
And then take a secondary picture if it's a red box of the message, the actual error. Because we may endorse a RAM dump depending on what was going on. Now, if it was like a hardware crash, vid 2 disappear, vid 2 missing, they didn't see the second monitor. There's errors where we don't need to get a RAM dump that we can tell when we see the error message. But then there is some stuff, we see it, we've never seen it before. We're gonna encourage you guys to request a RAM dump. And a lot of the TOs have already gotten a major amount of RAM dump kits from me. They just gotta schedule it. Bob, TJ, Bob Hanson, and myself all can contact Games and Josh Brody to sometimes expedite a project request for these RAM dumps, if they're legitimate. They're not gonna take 100 of them a week to get anybody's repair just pushed. But if there's a true ongoing issue that they don't have answers for, they're all more than willing, Josh and Barry, to push these project requests through and not take 2.5, 3 weeks to get scheduled agent to come out there. They usually sometimes, if it's on a Monday and I push it, that project, that actual service call might happen by Friday.
They want the information
They-
too.
we all-
They're encouraging us to, actually Josh asked Phil to get more RAM dumps out to the TOs in all the regions for all the TOs. So it wouldn't take as long if he had an available agent this afternoon or tomorrow, he could go fly instead of us overnight renting something to you guys. We have, if you get called to do a RAM dump and you don't understand how, it's very simple. We can walk you through it over the phone, very easy, simple.
It didn't show up on here, but there's another little box that'll pop up right below here, right below multi-denomination. Does anybody know what it is? Scheduler. Do not touch that. If you enable the scheduler and then you go out one step and you see your pending statuses, schedule not set, stop, RAM clear, start all over. As soon as you enable that scheduler, it doesn't even matter if you turn it off, it will not clear the error looking for a schedule. It just burns it into that setting. So RAM clear, start all over. And I always tell people, be careful when you go down here to enable the multi-denom, that you don't touch the enable scheduler. Because then
There's
it's
no
going to
backing
want a
up.
defined schedule. It doesn't even matter if you try and set up a predefined schedule, it's not going to work. It's just a real pain in the ass. It is. Better stop there anyways. Clock set up. One a day? 2 a day?
Per person, and then,
No,
if there's 5 of us there,
Couple calls we get a day, it's the time. And Games usually runs through this before they even tell you guys to call us. What's the time?
what
What's
time
the
is it
time
right
zone?
now? If you guys were gonna program a computer right now, what would you put in there right now, this very minute?
Yeah.
1723.
There.
17, it just turned 17:24.
You add 12, afternoon, you just add 12 to whatever time it is.
Yeah.
Until midnight, and then it
If
goes
it's
back to
after-
1.
If it's after 1 PM, make sure you have it in that military format. Make sure you're within 5, Bill Silverman said, within 5 minutes of Games time. It's gotta be close.
Or your smartphone.
Yeah.
Your smartphone is within 1 minute of their atomic clock that they're using in their CPU. So we're probably all using the same pole.
And then again, this isn't foolproof either. I've had people say, no, the clock's fine. I checked it. They go back and check it. You did. 2. Clock changed on it. Clock changed. Now, it could have been the batteries. The, clock, the year wasn't 2025 or whatever the hell it defaulted to. It changed the time on it.
The agent and I were both watching this because it was my second RAM cleared, and it did it twice to me. That time is right, okay, set. Save, go back into it, it's set, it saved it.
Yeah, we're good.
SGI can't see it.
So, if you start getting stuck, double check your time, make sure the time zone is right. On WMS, you're choosing Chicago. On Valley, you're choosing Central. Save the time zone first. before you set your time, or it'll alter the time you just put in. You
People
don't
are
have to
forgetting
do
to hit
that.
save on that. Usually, they don't hit set or save. And, or it can change. I don't know how it changes. I don't know what causes it. It wasn't SGI because I wasn't even plugged into them the second time. So I know that they didn't do it because I disconnected from them.
A lot of you know this, but still, again, we're gonna go through a lot of the G2S stuff for the people that haven't. SAS, you went SAS 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The new G2S protocol is gonna go 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And again, I tried to make it as simple. I know AGS did, or AVS did the same thing. They just try to explain you're adding 5 to your old SAS position. So this was SAS 1, SAS 2, SAS 3, SAS 4. This was actually IP 6, 7, 8, 9. If you had a 50 GM, it would be 10. That goes here. And later in the steps, there's a place that says G2S _ 6. I've had people change that 6 thinking it was the same, so that's why I changed in my guide. I changed this to 7, so people don't get confused to try and put their IP address. It has to be G2S _ 6 for that web address. Later in the guide, we'll talk about that. But this page, this is your EGM, and that's going to be your EGM's actual IP address. The subnet mask, people mess that up all the time. 255, 255, and I have them read it letter for letter, number for number. 255, 255, 255, 255. What? No. Like, read that back. Oh, yeah, it should be 240. Yeah. These two are always identical, but I have them read them anyways. When you get in there, it's going to say DHCP before you save anything. That's the default state. Once you hit set down at the bottom, it's going to change to static, and it may even say link up when it's DHCP because you're connected to the netgear, but you'll have a true connection. Once you save it as static and then link, it'll say link up if you're connected to the switch and to the TC. It'll say link up. If you see a link down, which I did this on a machine that was offline in my warehouse to get these photos, don't go any further. Find out why it's linked down. Check your Cat5 cables with the tester. Check the TC. Check the netgear. Look for activity lights on the back plane. Look for activity lights on the netgear. I don't want to unplug my netgear, but I drag it around here and show you that there's an activity light for each port next to the Ethernet cable itself that shows it's plugged in and activity. It'll blink. If you don't have activity, you don't see it, you can do new cable, try another port. And what I've had people do is take the MCD, unplug it, plug the game in question into where the MCD was, and now move the MCD to what might be the dead port. If it fixes it, then we know why, and then they've got to get you a new switch.
One of the games is going to be down because
Either
it fills up all the ports.
Yeah, you have no extra ports on the netgear. It accommodates, you know, the MCD, you know, it fills up. The whole thing is full. So you check your cables. Some people use prefab cables. They're not foolproof. They can go bad. They can get pinched, crimped, crushed, and then they're bad. That's why we're endorsing getting a Cat5 tester.
Remember Dan saying that when you arrive at the location from SAS to G2S, make sure you have comms.
You cannot go any further with link down. You won't get certs.
So you get a successful certification, and site users are still going to see it, and they suggest that maybe the cable's bad. If the cable is bad, you wouldn't be able to successfully get a certificate, could you?
Intermittent, bad cable, yes.
There's a couple of situations that can create that scenario. We talked about it with Bill, since Bill was here all day yesterday. You might have an intermittent connection on the actual modem. And that's where you would also go and look at the modem, depending on modem, see if you have 3 bars, 2 bars, 1 bar on the old style modems.
Service light.
Service light's
Service light
blinking
on and off.
instead of solid. The service light's off altogether. they're not gonna see it, they're not gonna see anything. But if you have intermittent connection, then you're not gonna be able to get the cert again. You go back, delete the cert, try and get it again, and then it says, nope, you're not gonna get a cert. So some of these were just poor quality connections.
We have that problem here. We got 3 of the machines up.
This building is notorious.
Fourth one we could not get con. We had their equipment here, we had 2 modems, we ended up stretching an extension cable, put the modem way over there, all by itself. And that modem wasn't working over here, but it was working over there.
I finally got
It
2
took us an
bars.
extra hour and a half, because we kept losing con.
Behind the 27 actually have the actual AT&T. The Sprint would not get more than 1 bar no matter where I put it this one. So again, your location might hinder your connectivity, and we were kind of limited here because we're like 2 walls away from an exterior wall in each direction. So there's rooms going that way, there's rooms behind us, there's rooms going both that way, so we were kind of limited. We were like, I can try and go this way and that way and see if I can get a better signal. I finally got 2 bars, and we were able to finally get certs, get them online. Bill brought them up. And again, we've gone down overnight. Last night, he brought them right back up, so I know it's got a stable connection.
So it can be a connection.
It also can be,
Could be comms.
there's 6 wires, or 8 wires in the Cat 5. You've got your orange, white, orange, green, white, green, blue, white, blue, brown, white, brown. And they don't run that way. Once you know how to run a Cat 5 cable, you know it's actually orange, white, orange, green, white, blue, blue, white, green, brown, white, brown. And both ends identical. Then that's a straight through type B, right? And then your tester will tell you that it's wired correctly. Not to be confused with crossover cables, which change it up a little bit. You don't want to make a crossover cable in our industry. You don't need that. So you could have a bad conductor still. You might have got a certificate for coming into the EGM, but you have wires running communication out of the EGM too, so that maybe it's not properly talking. I would have ruled out, okay, what did you do to solve it?
Well, so what happened was, it was a new cable, because it was for an ad machine.
Yep.
The cable, like, I got the certificate, well, try another cable. Tried another cable, and it didn't work, but I hung on to that cable, and I tried it at another site, and it worked perfectly fine.
Was it the
like,
shielded cable with the metal ends?
No, it was one of the standard, like, 3-foot orange ones.
Orange ones?
Those were orange ones, but the fact that it worked perfectly at another place and making me think the cable wasn't your problem, it was just,
Can be the port of the net gear, can be the connector. So it's not a through hole connection. All this stuff, it's all touch. So anytime you touch here, you're limited amount of connectivity. And if that cable's been in that facility for 2 years, 5 years, it tarnishes. If they smoke, I mean, there's bars out there that are still smoking.
Which computer was this? Or cabinet?
number 2.
Okay, so those are some of the oldest.
It was a brand new cable when I started.
No, but the actual 8 pins in the Ethernet ports are facing up
See what you're saying.
for 5 years. They're getting dusty, they're getting humid, they're getting oxidized and corroded. So you're sticking it kind of, I'm saying they're rusty, but they're gonna be a little weathered. Sitting in there, they might have an intermittent connection. So, just sometimes I endorse people, unseat it, replug it in once or twice, get a nice firm seat. I've had 1 or 2 people that, all they had to do was replug into the net gear, link went back
So
up.
that probably was all, but we
Yeah.
had another brand new one.
And it worked, so you might have just had a loose or intermittent connection. Now,
That
if you
machine
mess
has
with your
that 5-volt
connection,
bus on top of that, and we could plug that cable in, all it's doing is those wires are just touching the top of it, literally, I mean, it's just touching.
now if you start troubleshooting your connectivity issues, you put the cables in, you move it out, back out 1 step into the setup com page, and then go back into IP setup. And if you fixed it, it will change. It won't just automatically change if you stay on that page. You have to step out 1 page and then go back in IP setup, and then it'll refresh that setting and tell you link up or link down. If you have link up, then you're gonna move on, just like we are to the next step.
Link up, will it refresh if you go link down from link up?
Yes, no, it won't auto refresh on that same page. Like I said, if you go down, you go back in that page, yes.
If you're showing link up right now,
Yep.
in 2 minutes I lose it, that's still gonna say link up.
No,
If you
it's
go
in
back
there.
in there,
Well, if you lose it in 2 minutes, you're off that page moving forward. But
Yeah,
if
you
you
won't
go
be on
back
that page,
there,
but let's
it'll
say-
say link.
let's
I
say
can't
you-
just click in, click out and see my stats.
well,
That's
and we're
right.
gonna go over this when we get to the cert page. You start having issues with certs later on, in the next few steps. I tell people to go back and tell me, does it still say link out?
It's not live feed. It has to refresh when you enter that page.
So there's all the settings, and then again, you would hit save. And then now you go to the certificate page.
Make it serve.
One of his son's technicians had an issue today, and they
Well, he was
actually,
a collector.
oh, a collector did that, and tried to get new certs?
Yeah.
They misspelled the CERT-SRV, cert, and did CERT with a P.
And hit get certificates and then hit save and.
And then, of course, it produced a invalid certificate,
It
fingerprinted. It gave a fingerprint, but it showed that it was an invalid for fingerprint. It didn't give the long chain of good letters, it said invalid fingerprint. And yet they still accepted it, and then they moved on and got the bottom one, and then they had to start all over. There was a WMS, it wasn't
Now it's a
valid.
RAM clear.
So they had to ram through that. So, again, at the beginning of all three guides, we'll go through the other one too, the WMS, since this kind of covers Bally with the two different changes, but all three guides are in your pens. Lowercase letters. We learned this the hard way too. We did. I went on the very first ones with Excel. TJ went on a couple first ones with Gold Rush. And I'm sitting there with John Jesernick, and we're typing in these freaking numbers, letters, and nothing's working. And I call up Bill Zimmerman. Bill, did I miss something? Remind me again, what's up with these web addresses? He's like, well, you're putting the lowercase letters, right? I'm like, oh. Might have mentioned that in his breath, under his breath a little, but
Yeah,
it's
Bill's not real
paramount.
certain.
It will not work if you use a single uppercase letter. And again, someday maybe they'll fix the back end at Wooddale to accommodate uppercase letters, because it's a pain in the ass. Caps lock, numbers, caps lock, special characters, letters, caps lock, back to a decimal point, caps lock, back to numbers, caps lock. Back and forth, you're hitting that caps lock button. And gosh knows, I've tried to plug in a USB keyboard, won't work. I've tried everything. There's just no getting around hitting that on-screen display. Because if I could have gotten an actual USB keyboard to work, I would have said, hey,
We're selling
Guys,
US keyboards to
I'm
everybody.
selling $5 USB keyboards for $10 right now, yeah. But no, nothing else works. On-screen display. So, a lot of you might be sitting on old G2S guides that have different numbers here. The most recent revision, and again, with the exception of Spelo, and I can't quote specifics, I think they're 9999. We've raised the OCSP reauthenticate period to 32,000. That's 21 days. It'll go to 32,787, but please, what's another 7 hour, 11 hours. So 3 weeks is more than enough time to try and get new certificates. 240 is enough time for the machine to actually be offline during that, I said, it could be offline for this much time. It should reconnect. If it doesn't connect within 240 minutes, you might see issues. You might have connectivity issues with all your machines. And then it'll accept a new certificate every 12 hours. It could get one. So every 12 hours, again, it's not going to get one every 12 hours because you're going only once every 3 weeks. But we've ramped up all the windows to limit, again, it's been a learning curve. We went from the original settings that all of the software engineers endorsed some of these were 1 and 60 and 8460, 8640, and it wasn't working.
It was causing a lot of issues.
And we brought it up to these software development guys, and then I even sent out a guy, they endorsed going down to 600, which was the wrong way to go. They're like, oh, you gotta lower that. So I did what they said. I'm like, okay, these are the software engineers. They know what they're saying. So again, through trial and error, we figured out that was really bad. And now I've had a lot fewer instances of certificate issues with these finalized settings. This, by the way, the key size, you only have to tap it once. It goes from 1028 to 20 or 1024 to 2048. It has to be 2048.
Everything else, those three other green numeric boxes have to be deleted before you could start typing a new number. So if you touch the box and put in a
If
new
you're getting
number,
new
you're just
certificates-
adding more digits
Yeah.
to it. So you have to either backspace or clear.
Let's say you have the 1 here on one of the older settings, and you go in there and you start typing in 240. Well, you're gonna have 1240. You don't want that. You're gonna hit on the keyboard. You hit clear, and then you'll type in your number, and then you hit clear before you type in your number. Then you don't have to type in the number for the key size. It's gonna be preset to 1024. You're gonna tap it once. It's gonna bump up to 2048. You get all those settings. Verify letter for letter, character for character against your hard copy. Read it off to a person that's next to you, or verify it before you try and get CA certificate.
Some of those old monitors are hard to see, like some of the
Colon and
Valley
semicolon
monitors.
get mixed up all the time.
And they disappear. You don't see the center slash, you just don't see it, or, yes, it will.
Yeah, the comma instead of a period and the semicolon instead of a colon will screw things up. So, again, in your pens, it's a high quality PDF. You can blow it up. And in fact, I can blow this up and you'll see that it's a lot easier to read. And the web addresses are actually written down below, nice and clean.
He
So-
put it on a nice format so you can, so all of us at Betson all have smartphones, and we all downloaded a free Adobe Reader to our smartphone, and then we download these PDF files to our smartphones and drop them into that reader, and now we have all this information electronically on your smartphone.
So you can see.
Us older guys
Single
kind of
dot,
have
double
to
dot.
blow it up, so I still bring a paper document with me, because I'm an old guy and I like paper, I guess. I don't really.
It's easy because you can hold that paper up and you can set it down. You don't have to keep holstering your phone or whatever.
So
So
I've read
if
them.
my numbers are wrong, say I put in 327, whatever it is, it's going into the other one.
right,
Hit backspace.
But I mean, if I say.
it will go as high as
it'll go through-
32787.
You can go change it today. You can go out there and change that. If you know that you programmed a machine 2 months ago with information that's not up to date, you can go to that machine and change it and save it, and it will save it.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
And if it's wrong, it'll still pass through the check.
It'll still pass.
Yeah.
As long as
It's
you don't
just
go
showing-
exceeding, you can't go to 33,000.
Okay.
There is a limit, and it says that when you go do the WMS, which we'll do the guide next, it says your limits right there on the page.
Yeah.
It's clean and cut and dry, it says 0 to 32,787. And so you can't exceed that, just like on Spilos, you try and put in more than 9999, and it tells you, nope, sorry, that's your limit. They might fix that, I heard, too, they might try and change the operating system.
But I mean, it'll still, the machine will come up if those numbers are off.
Yes.
It will, but
It will.
you'll have issues.
You'll have other.
Because we went up and down both ways, and we found that these numbers are the least amount of issues to date. Actually, they have eliminated just about every issue that we're experiencing with that part of our G2S. So like I said, if you know that you have program machines out there, I know it's hard to get to every location. I don't know how you're gonna do that, but if you're at a location, just go check all those numbers. I mean, it takes 5 extra minutes out of
If
the
I
day.
change those numbers, do I have to pull new certificates?
Yes. If you go recertify the settings, you change the certification settings, you might just start off with delete or remove certificates first. And then get your new certificates. Get your CA, then get your EGM, and then go ahead and exit, return to game, close your doors. If you apply new settings, you want to get new certs with those new
On a
settings.
WMS,
You have to reboot.
on a
Yes.
WMS.
WMS,
you
there's
have to
3
follow the
points you have
guide.
to reboot.
You have to reboot, you have to power stroke that machine at
No, I
specific
mean,
places.
like right now, I have a place that I know I get very early on, and
Yep.
much lower numbers.
Sure.
I gotta fix that.
Valley?
No, WMS.
WMS.
No. WMS, when you do the initial G2S, immediately after the certificate page, on that same page, it says
Yeah.
reboot. So yes, for those to apply, you want to reboot.
And so why don't you got that big beautiful blade monitor when I get settings, it goes this big?
Because it goes to 600 by 800 resolution,
Fix that, I'm lying.
right? And I would love to have this big, but again, the setting screens they're written in a different resolution, because again, engineers don't think we're doing this on the street.
They're sitting in front of a laptop.
Even if you give the calibration of the monitor, they're you got big ugly figures.
Yeah. Oh, please, I've got these big sausage fingers, and
We know.
I see that's a big sausage finger all the time. So,
There's been scratches in my, so if you know you got a bad touch screen, you gotta replace it. But we've had some instances where the technician's in the field and he doesn't have a monitor and he's going G2S live. We've offset them, we've recalibrated the monitor touchscreen, and we'll just touch this far off from the dots and move it off center, program everything, where on that specific keyboard, and then move it back, and then, you're live, and then replace the computer or monitor at
I have
a
19
specific
kids,
time.
which is just long, there's just no.
Yeah, no, you're right, you gotta replace it. But there's been instances that we've been able to just move the touch, you gotta trick the machine. Like on a WMS BB2, if the top monitor loses comms, I can take that video cable, I can stick it, I can reboot the machine at a specific time when it's booting up, I can stick that VGA into the VGA connection of the lower monitor, and it will see it. And if I leave it there and don't do anything, don't power cycle the machine, that machine is playable without the top monitor. But if you power cycle that machine,
it's not gonna see it.
you're not gonna see it. And you gotta do it at a specific time.
What's the time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
That worked on SAT. I don't even know if that works on G2S anymore.
When it was looking for the top monitor. Once it sees the first monitor, once it sees that first monitor in the boot up screen and it sees, the ELO.
Yep.
Once it sees the touch screen, when it says ELO,
When
ELO is the
it
main
loads the
thing.
ELO touchscreen
Once it
drivers,
goes- once it
it's
sees
got the
that
first
ELO,
monitor knocked out.
Plug it into the
Trying to get the second
VGA.
monitor. So,
I mean, that's an emergency thing.
Protocol Select was the next option in your G2S guide for Valley and the Twinstar. And there's a huge reason why I had to make a huge idiot-proof save button icon on the actual page here. Because people were saying, I went back into that protocol select page and nothing was selected. It says not set, not set, not set, not setting it. I'm like, you didn't save. And again, if
You'll
you're
know you
taking
hit
your
save
time
because it'll
with
be
the
sitting
guide,
there.
if you're taking your time with the guide, you should be seeing all the points that you save or don't save. Because there are points where you don't save, which are coming up. And again, it's not as critical on the don't save, but let's say you set the protocol. Now you're going to configure your G2S 1.1 protocol page. All right, configure it, and 1 a week, 2 a week, depends on how many.
Per technician in the
Yeah,
office.
I might not get all of them. HTTPS, secure, S. All you gotta do is tap it. It'll cycle between HTTP and HTTPS. You touch it again, or if your touch screen's extra sensitive, it'll touch again, it'll go back to HTTP. It has to be HTTPS, or it will not work.
Follow the guide.
Ignore. Sorry, phone call. You gotta set the port to 80 and scroll down here, because this is.
And that
what I'm
80 is always
talking about.
highlighted, it's always blue until you put a number in it.
Big old star.
Don't say.
Do not save yet. You're gonna press the host config button. And your host config screen, people call me this all the time. Like, Phil, I set up the host, and then I go back in there, and then I have to hit the new host button. I'm like, no. Once you populate the new host setting, which we're gonna go over on the next page, it will be up here at the top, and it's gonna have the web address of the host and everything on it. And they go, oh, well, then I go into that host settings, and nothing was saved. It was saved. You don't need to go in there twice, and there's no save option. I'll show you. So you go in there, and you're creating a host on this page. You're doing, again, on all cabinets, because people mess this up all the time. They confuse this with the IPs and the SAS. Like, oh, I changed that to 6 or 7 or 9. I'm like, no. This one doesn't tell you any specific address to put in there. It's just one. Host ID 1. And then they screw this up too. They put the wrong, they put the comma, they put too many decimal points. 10.167.250.2.65501. I wouldn't say period because then somebody's going to put a period on the end of that. So that's it. So you populate this, host ID 1, SG1, you're going to put that web address, and then again, this is where people, I've said this earlier in this section, G2S_6. Has to be that. It will not work without that. I've had people put their IP address at the end of that G2S_.
So basically, all of that is the phone number to Scientific Games. Their host 1, you're calling from this number, basically it's
Well,
just.
and if Bill were
getting
here,
hold of-
if Bill were here, he would tell you, 10.167.250.1 is the modem. 10.167.250.2 is the TC. Those are the two addresses, and through those, you're talking to Side Games. You're not actually addressing Wooddale. You're addressing Wooddale through the equipment. And so, he's made it plainly evident that those are those two IP addresses, is the modem and the TC. And then I had to add it to the guide. Do not confuse the URL with your IP address, because too many people were putting their IP address after the G2S underscore. And I'm saying too many, like multiple a week. So that was one of the revisions early on. So now I have my host ID across the top of that screen.
And if you back up, your information is not gonna be there.
So,
If you
yeah,
hit
yeah.
host again, you and put another number, you would be entering a second host. Don't do that.
With the Twinstar, and only with the Twinstar, the cabinet will automatically put SG. It'll put the cabinet there. Valleys, you're gonna have to put the cabinet, the 2222, the 27, 27, 2027. The wave is near the bottom of the list. It's 40 concave, AKA wave.
Look for the concave wave.
AKA wave. So again, because it's the Twinstar guide, it's highlighting that the cabinet will automatically be populated. That does not apply to valleys. There's too many valley cabinets for it to just automatically detect. So again, we're not saving. We're going to go now into the ownership configuration. And this is the page that people get confused on. They go, I went back in there and nothing was set. It was. If you follow the instructions. And again, it's all about following instructions. G2S all, G2S all. When you touch this, this web address actually right here will pop up right here, or like right here, and say, you know, not selected, or host one, and then that long web address, which we just put in on the other page. You'll touch that web address, it'll put host one there. You'll do the same thing for the configurator.
And save
Right.
and set.
So there's no save or set button on this page. But the very next step is to step out one level, and then now we hit the save button on the page that we're on before. Now that we've done those two options, we get done with all this, it says G2SL, host one. Make sure before you hit that save button that you've got HTTPS. Now we save. People say they went and did all that. And it doesn't matter if you even hit save. If you go back in there, it's not going to be populated. It's saved, it's in there, but it's not going to be set. Save. If you save and that says HTTP, rampant. You can try and touch it and change it. It's going to give you a little red window in there, and it's going to tell you that you can't change it. So, again, paramount that you have that as HTTPS before you hit save. Then you're going to move on to the next step. So, here, nothing set. Bob, nothing set here. It was saved.
G2S
G2S, host one.
Here's the important place that you gotta remember, that box is not on that screen, but when you hit host one, the web address is here. You highlight it and hit set, you go here,
Yep.
I'm just gonna hit set.
Yeah, I'm gonna cancel all
Yeah,
shit, screw up our connection, but yes, because if you go in there, you go back into that page, look, it's not set, people are confused, it doesn't say anything here, here, here. Well, no, because once you set that, and then you hit save, it's saving that ownership configuration setting. And again, you don't have to go back in there, people are like, well, I did see the settings, it's not saving them. It is saving them, as long as you hit save after that step. And then again, here, this is near the end of Valley and the Twinstar. You get this far, and these two are disabled, not available. You get the, yeah, it's those, or these three say unavailable. They're just grayed out. Your printer didn't detect it. It just didn't detect. Now you're going to have to start all over because you set the whole machine up, and the printer didn't detect, the games didn't program for that printer. One of these. One of these actually pops off if your bill acceptor is not communicating either. So if you're missing one of these, go back to that device page that I said don't save anything on, but you can double check it. Make sure your bill acceptor or your printer are both populated. If you see not set for either of those, you have an underlying issue that you need to address. So then this is pretty much it. Once you save those and then hit save with Valley, exit, return to game, shut the door with your CPUs closed and locked. A lot of people are just like, the agent's not back yet. Well, that's fine. If you have a way of tricking the CPU door to appear closed to the switch, that's fine. As long as the CPU doesn't have an L door on your screen and you shut all your main doors, Windell can see it and bring it up. And they might not bring it up to your agent, gives the call ahead and says, all right, I'm on my way back there. Go ahead and bring that site up. And then Mary, Alan, Al, anybody will bring up those machines.
And Phil brings up a valid point on the peripherals. Again, there's a lot of things to check before you start. You get to a location and the validator is not working. When you got there, you don't know it's not working. It's not powered up. It's whatever. You can't go live with that machine without a validator and a printer working. You can't go live.
I don't know if I mentioned this today. We mentioned like 10 times yesterday. I don't know if I mentioned it today.
There is. On the Twinstar, no. On the Valley, yes.
Yeah, there's a bit of a delay on the valve.
Yeah.
You can actually go farther back if you
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
I was just asking.
Now, early on in the setups of Valley, it's constantly pulling the DHCP server, because it's set to DHCP default, and so it's constantly trying to connect. And so when you go to that IP page, you'll notice it seems like it's kind of frozen, and then it starts
Right.
touching. When
Once you
it's
get
frozen,
static,
it's touching.
you're good to go.
Once you go to static and it's saved, it clears up because it's no longer trying to pull DHCP.
There's still, even on the valley, there's still a big delay before device number 7.
Before the device setup.
Yeah. When you hit the one screen and then you gotta go back to the device number 7 and set those 6 digits.
Yes.
There's a big delay. You can actually go far.
Oh, yes, you can go back too far.
When you wanted to and not realize what you've done.
Yeah, you gotta go back.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
How do I get back to device 7? I was just asking.
Touch
Back
screen,
to-
wait.
Just tap it, give it one, good long wait, and then it should back up one step. It doesn't step back, then touch it again. It should step back one step, and then you're gonna hit that save. Now, I didn't scroll down all the way yet because this brings up another good point. I've had people go, they had a bad computer, the 2.0 died during the process. They went back a week later with a new 2.1 computer, and then they get the call, Phil, we put that brand new computer you gave me. Like, I didn't hand it to them for parts. They always say, oh, you gave me that brand new 2.1 computer, Phil, and it's red boxing. I'm like, well, send me a picture of that red box. And it says Mac identification fail, Mac ID fail, Mac failure. So, again, Dan, and we might have mentioned this together, the Valleys and the Twinstar, they don't need the Mac. Their system kind of sees the serial number and the Mac automatically because they have a Valley back end. They almost use the same language. And so they don't need the MAC address, but yet it's saved in the TC, it's saved on the backplane board from the computer. The computer is what has your MAC address in it internally. And so you change that computer out. I take that wonderful 2.0 computer out, and I put in the new 2.1, and I'm like, okay, and I do one normal RAM clear, and I still get this red box. It says Mac failure. Well, and again, through experience, I've had to encourage people. There's two options on the RAM clear page. There's the initial one that it defaults to, just a regular NV and EEPROM, and then there's a second option. A lot of people were oblivious to this. They're like, no, there isn't. I'm like, no, there isn't on SAS, but if you do G2S, new RAM clear, gives you this option. And you have to hit the little white button on the computer to choose the second option. And then I endorse doing 2 complete full RAM clears. This wipes everything from the backplane board, everything temporary from the computer. Doesn't wipe the games. It's not an install. It doesn't format the hard drive. It wipes everything temporary off of the hard drive, off the backplane, and makes it search for a fresh start. Sends out a new MAC address to their equipment. It clears the MAC ID failure red box. It also is a great resolution for NV RAM fails. And I changed the batteries. I did one RAM clear. Well, they say I did a RAM clear. They still have NV RAM fail. Do 2. And do
Full.
2 full RAM clears. And when I say 2 full RAM clears, I don't mean turn the key twice. Do a full RAM clear. Green letters, all processes successful. Shut it down. Turn it back on. Boot into the RAM clear, whether it's a Twinstar with the USB, which boots up pretty quickly, or it's the slow Valley. But the Valley, again, when you're doing the RAM clear, it's loading straight from the compact flash card, and the RAM clears load relatively fast. You're going to boot right back into another RAM clear setting, and then you're going to do another full RAM clear. To clear those battery errors, the MAC failures, a lot of the stuff that's stubborn. And then once that's successful, shut it down, take out your, like if it's Valley, take out your compact flash card, Twinstar, take out your USB, lock your CPU. Don't seal it yet. You want to make sure everything's done before your agent may usually insist on waiting until it's live anyways. But shut the CPU and then move back on to doing your settings. All right. Any questions before we go over to WMS? Speeches. Okay. This guide has had a few different versions. And it might have been even more than 5, but I started changing the name back around version 2 to Betson G2S version 2, 3, 4, 5. And again, I've changed some settings. So again, some things you want to try and call us about, by all means, call us. But you can always call site games to make sure it's not a modem issue. See if they see the site, see if they see the modem, see if they see the TC. And then again, they'll go through a whole bunch of stuff, and they've got a rudimentary spreadsheet or a checklist, like Dan was saying, that they go through before they endorse you calling the manufacturers. You're going to need to call ABS. You're going to need to call Betson. You need to call whoever.
Unless you're Al, and then it's like, hey, call Betson.
You better be
Al,
clear to
I
call
said this is
Betson.
Bob Goodman from Betson. Come on.
TJ's had that one, Mary. And he started the call with, Mary, yeah, this is TJ with Betson, and we're doing a G2S here. Goes into the whole spiel for like 2 minutes. She listens to him, and then she retorts, well, listen, you're going to have to call Betson. And he's like, I told you I'm TJ with Betson. And I'm thinking, again, who's he going to call? Call him, his call waiting's going to ring, and then it's TJ. Yeah, TJ, it's TJ. What are the odds? Your name's TJ too?
He's gonna call you and say, hey, Mary said I had to.
So, and again, and I know they try their best, but sometimes we've all seen it, we've all heard it. I won't even mention names, but I've had higher level staff go and talk to some of the call center people and say, why didn't you see this? And they forgot that they didn't mute it, or they're still on, I call them on their cell sometimes, the upper level people. And I hear them talking in the background, well, why didn't you see this? Why didn't you do this? It's right there, stuff like that. So they're not perfect, but they're all learning. And again, we give them the benefit of the doubt. But again, they might tell us or tell you guys to call us, and it might be them. But then again, they might try for 20 minutes to solve something, and it really is something that you need to call us on. So they're getting better, and I know that they're really trying to train the staff better. And I would encourage them to try harder for the weekend people. Because we take turns. I usually have the hotline directed to me, but I also offload it sometimes to TJ or George or Bob. And we take turns doing the weekends in the afternoons. Well, sometimes on the weekends, I get the stupidest calls. And again, sometimes texts on the weekend, they say, well, I don't know who I was talking to at Side Games, but they gave me the runaround for a few minutes. They told me I got a RAM clear, maybe call the manufacturer. Who'd you talk to? Well, I don't know, but so then we go through the settings, we troubleshoot. We'll try and go through all the steps with you guys over the phone. And keep in mind, guys, I don't expect my guys to answer the phone after like 9:30, 10 p.m. at night. Because honestly, we work just like you guys, 9 to 5, 8 to 5 during the day. And they work the afternoon phone calls like I do, just because we're trying to support the industry. I don't have somebody running 24-hour service, like the casinos. Now again, early on, there was a Valley phone number inside some of the valleys. They didn't have the WMS hotline number. And God knows, I get phone calls from people that have my direct phone number.
Get Steve's cell number?
And at least I give them one number and not my other number. I'm like, are you in the machine now? Yeah, why? Well, see that little red sticker next to the power button? It says 1866, blah, 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 blah. That's the hotline number for Betson. That same number right there. Call that, you know, between this hour and this hour. And, because sometimes, like, starting Friday, I'm on PTO. But I know I'm gonna get those calls. I'm gonna be in Mount Rushmore next week. I'll be in San Francisco next week. I'm gonna get these calls from these guys that insist on calling me direct, because they, despite my best efforts to have them save the VLT hotline number in their phone, they're gonna call me. Same people call, they ask only for Mary, and they only ask for a certain person over at Wooddale. And I get it, you have your favorite person you wanna talk to. You're like, I know I'm gonna talk to TJ, he'll give me the straight answer. I'm gonna talk to Bill, I'll get the down low. I'll talk to Bill Zimmerman, I'll get the real root of the fact. Truth is, all my guys are very savvy on all of the stuff that we provide. And so it doesn't matter if you get a hold of George, TJ, Bob, Kyle is starting to answer the phone as well. I have a guy called Kyle Snurley, very good technician, and he's starting to handle the hotline during the day at the office. We talk to him. He's great because he's been doing a lot of my G2S conversions of these small TOs. And so he's probably had more hands-on experience now lately than any of us, because he's out there still doing them on the street. So don't hesitate to call the hotline. Time was, you know, we're standing. Try not to call at 12:30 at night. Again, CF card to do, you know, RAM clear, then you can install. You can actually install. I had somebody argue this with me. You can install the jur chip after the RAM clear. You should put the jur chip in first and then RAM clear. Because if you put the RAM clear in, you run the RAM clear in, and then you accidentally boot it up again before you stick the new jur chip in, it's gonna recognize that as a change in hardware. Now, if you RAM clear it, and then you take out the RAM clear, shut it down, you take out the RAM clear chip, and then you put the new jur chip in, it's still off. It hasn't saved the new software that it sees. It doesn't see the new jur chip yet, and so that's fine. But because procedure is really, really important as we go through the WMS stuff, you should really follow the protocols step for step. That way, there's no surprises. Here's an acronym description of the different settings later when we get to the different certificates.
What does NOTS stand for in the valley?
What?
What does NOTS stands for in the valley?
Nonce?
Yeah.
It says enable. Enable. I never got a straight answer out of Bill Zimmerman for nonce. Use nonce, but you gotta enable it or it won't work. Right? So, you know, we're gonna pause. I'll let you guys take a 6 o'clock break, and I'll even give you 17 minutes. We'll come back at 6:30, and we'll move on with WMS G2S still. All right.
Oh, yeah.